Yes, we're ready. Call to order. Mr. Sharris, can you call the roll?
Absolutely. Mr. Pollock.
Here.
Mr. Lake.
Here.
Mr. Gifford.
Here.
Mr. Postic.
Here.
And Ms. Foy is not here presently.
And now item 2, we'll have a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. Please remember the people in Pakistan for what they're going through right now. And we'll say the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, we did the roll call, sorry. Item 3, we already did. Item 4, agenda, 4.1, consider approving the agenda. Does anyone want to make a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Hearing none others, it's approved. Public comment for agenda items only, item 5. Hearing none. Item 6 is the minutes. Consider approving the minutes from August 4th, 2022 meeting, Parks and Rec, August 4th.
Move to approve.
Second?
I'll second that.
The motion's approved. Item 7.1, Public Works update. Mr. Sharretts, can you provide an update?
Okay, of course. And we'll have the record show that Ms. Foy is here now.
Thank you.
So Public Works continued during the season to visit every park 3 times a week for inspection, cleaning, et cetera. We check every trail as well 3 times a week. And then some of the other locations that are township properties that are essentially parks but aren't active recreation, such as the Bartram Bridge, the Paper Mill property, some of those properties, we still visit 1 time a week. The Meadow Preserve, we usually do 1 time a week. And, again, cut the grass and just go through and check it. But all the active recreation parks, we make sure to get to 3 times a week. The bocce ball courts at Drexel Lodge continue to come along pretty well. We still are maintaining that by the end of September, having them completed. All of the stonework has been installed at this point. We have the turf that's going to go down on the top of them, and then the wood that goes on the rest of it, and they'll be ready to go. They're ready to jump into the horseshoe pits immediately after that. And then once that work is done, they'll get into regrading and putting grass seed down, et cetera. The Gable Field bleachers. So last month I reported that they were installed. We just had some last detail work to do, stone underneath, fastening them down, et cetera. We have accomplished that. The old bleachers were disassembled in the first 3 rows, which were permitted to be used still. Were brought over to Brookside Park and installed over there. And they look good. They cleaned up around them. I think it's a good fit for over there at Brookside.
It's an improvement for sure.
Yeah, I think it is. And we took the old ones and scrapped them. During inspections, we have continued to occasionally find issues down at Newby Park where there's been some vandalism. Most recently, we had graffiti. Which we went and cleaned it up as soon as we found it, but nonetheless, I reported to you that it's still going on. The police are aware. We are working on the camera capacity down there. One of the challenges is to make sure we get data somehow down there to be able to grab the camera feeds. But the police are working on that with Delco Solutions, and I'm hoping we're going to have a proposal for it shortly. Not just at Newby, at all the parks and the township properties. Drexel Lodge, there was actually vandalism down there that we repaired this past week. Folks had at some point, again, we check it 3 times a week, so we know about when it happened. At the bridge across the upper pond, they took both benches. One went in the pond, one went down in the creek below the pond. They kicked out some of the slots underneath the railing there to stop people from going in there. and they beat up some of the handrails on there. But we fixed it the next day after we found it. We got a police report. We pulled all the benches back out again. We did chain the benches to one of the back posts so that you could still move them a little bit, but they can't go in the water again.
They weren't damaged?
They were not. So the ones that are in that area are a resin material, heavy duty plastic. And I'd like to say it's the first time they've wound up in the water, but it's not. And they keep bouncing back. So again, the police are keeping an eye on that, but it's tough because even if the police are doing their drive-through Drexel Lodge, you don't see back down there as well, and there's no light back there. Today we fixed, and then there's miscellaneous things. I don't report on every single thing, but like today when we stopped out at Brookside and we're looking, I saw that there was some damage to the gate going into the tot lot. So this afternoon, the crew went over and fixed that. The wire fence, the fastener that holds the one down, and we got that fixed, and that's back again. The only other thing I'll mention is that I'm dumbfounded, but I do not have an update on the shades for Brookside Park yet. The company, after I talked to them the last time, swore up and down that they were getting me something, and they've actually changed staff representatives again. And the new person was supposed to reach out with all this information. So I genuinely hope I'm bringing that to the next one. I still want to get them installed this year. If for some reason we're not able to get them installed by the end of this year, we'll be asking the board to roll the money over in the next year so that we'll get it in the winter installed and be ready to go for the next season if we don't manage to get it in for this season. And that is my report.
So the bocce court, are you going to have a formal dedication for that at all? And if so, this year or next?
So that's a good question. We're just building it. We hadn't really thought about whether we would have a dedication for it or not. I know that Marple Newtown Recreation is chomping at the bit, excited to be able to start permitting it, because there's lots of people that want to utilize it. And obviously it is going to wind up going through the same process if somebody wanted to, utilize the pavilion or, normally utilize the upper or lower field or something like that. They'll get a permit through recreation. It's available for anybody to use at any time. I think what we're probably going to do is similar to near the pavilion. We have a sign that just on a weekly basis identifies this is when there's activity taking place at the pavilion. If there's not somebody scheduled, if there's not a league or somebody that is scheduled to utilize the bocce ball court, they can absolutely go and make use of it. We're talking, because these leagues have their own equipment and those things, they're probably going to provide them a job box that they could keep those things in on site there. We'll need to figure out the logistics of if we want public use bocce ball equipment to be available. If somebody goes to the township and says, we want to play bocce ball down there, maybe they'll get a key or a code or something like that and be able to utilize it, or they could bring their own. But I think we still have to figure out how general use will work for folks. The leagues are easy, they're organized. The general use folks, whether we want to have sets of things for them and how we want to make it happen. With regard to a dedication, we haven't been thinking of that. I think that's a great thought, and I'm open to suggestions.
I would assume the supervisors would want to be there and and let the public know.
Yeah.
You'd want it on social media.
Do you think, would you want to try to tie it into the Family Fun Day? Or would you like to do it at a separate standalone time?
It doesn't really matter when we do it. We could do it actually next spring, even if we're using it between now and then. It's just a good to have it out there in the public, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else, what do you guys think?
Well, I think if it gets finished and is open for people to play, put a sign up at some point saying we're going to dedicate this place. in the spring. So they might, I mean, they're going to see it when they come. And we could have
Yeah.
more than just us being there.
And is it gonna have a name like Drexel Lodge Bocce, or could we like honor somebody that, contributed to the community in some way?
I think Joe Catania is, somebody who's done a lot recently passed. I don't know. I mean, we could think probably a lot of people. That's an idea, yes, sure. But we don't have to take action or anything else on it. We can, maybe we'll put it on the agenda next month if everybody's okay with that.
Yeah, think about it. We'll put it on the agenda. I think they're great questions, though.
Item 7.2, reports. Yoga fitness at Drexel Lodge Park update from EAC member Sheila Sullivan O'Feeney.
All right, guys, we had a fabulous summer. We completed the sizzling summer free fitness classes on August 23rd. We were able to provide 11 weeks of free exercise classes to the residents. It was a big hit. It was well received, and each week was unique. It wasn't just the same people, but we always had, based on their vacation schedules and stuff, a variety of people. And everyone was really appreciative of it. Special thank you to Alexandra and Bonnie from Young Forever Fitness and Nutrition on Chapel Road, Newtown Square, for providing all of these classes to the residents. And as I said, Alex was just great. He embraced everyone that came in. All levels of fitness were welcome, and it was a really good time. In August, we really got busy, and we also did the Yoga in the Park series. So this was for adults on Mondays. And so we had morning and evening sessions, again, different type of Pilates and yoga, and it was a really well received, great hit. And that was thank you to Yoga in the Circle on St. Albans Circle for providing these classes as well. But our biggest hit was on August 29th when we did the kids yoga and story time. Now, Parks, we coordinated with Newtown Square Child's Librarian, and we had 54 people there. It was a huge hit. We actually had to, even expand every time we turned around, more kids were coming. And Angela is fabulous because she has a really good email list. And so at the end of each event, we would always use it like a commercial break. I would tell them about, farmer's market, about Pints in the Square, about Family Day. And actually for the kids yoga event, I asked all the adults there to be ambassadors to spread the news about your October 1st date, because that's really a huge thing. And that was a big, big thing. So they will support us. We are looking maybe possibly, library, talked to Angela and I are thinking of maybe doing something in October with the library and parks. We'll figure it out during a day event, something in the parks, and we'll kind of coordinate that and let you know.
So if you're in contact with her, can you see if she would want to do something at the October 1st Family Fun?
Yes, I told her
was gonna
about
reach
that.
Arlene, but
Yes,
Angela probably has a better idea of what she could do.
I talked with Angela about that, and she is, first of all, really excited about it. She'll fully support it. And I explained to her what already the scope of the work of what we're doing, and she's be willing to fill in the blanks with anything. And again, Arlene and Angela have been fabulous to
Yeah, if it
spread all
could be train related.
Yep, I asked her
Something
to
they
coord-
do would be
perfect.
fantastic.
And in another thank you would be to the Marple Newtown Leisure Services. Amber and Rich have been fabulous with sharing all of our information. And of course, Leonard for sharing that, and we greatly appreciate it. One thing I want to let you guys know, which is really wonderful, I don't know if you saw the family and friends, but I was able to get Sheila Hiller Turner to put that in. So it was a huge, just to kind of get acknowledgement to get the October 1st event off. And we'll go into all the details about the program that we have with Charmy Shops, Charmy Place Center, and what they're going to do for us.
Thank you, Sheila. Greatly appreciated. All right, new business, item 8.1, discussion and possible action regarding the property located Sawmill Road, Aspen Drive. I wanted this back on the agenda because we really didn't have a chance to discuss it, between us. So, I think we shared some of our thoughts. I think Bill had some concerns about, noise in the neighborhood there, which he's right, it is very close to the house. I went and looked at it, and if you walk in the park, you can actually see the person's backyard, so. We have to be respectful of that, or at least mindful. And I don't know if anyone else got a chance to drive up and look at it at all. It's pretty,
Can you tell us, when you take a right on Sawmill, it's down on the left?
no, it's, when you take a right on the Sawmill, it's there.
Oh, right?
That's
Right
where it
on,
is.
right on 252.
Oh,
Yeah,
Two
Sawmill, 252 and Aspen. Sawmill and Aspen, 252.
wow, all right.
So the driveway for the Sawmill portion of the property is on 252 itself. If you've turned on the Sawmill, you're not going to be able to get onto the property from 252 because there's no driveway into it. The first driveway would be the neighbor's property. But you can get into it off of 252,
Thank you.
right before you would get to the traffic light there. I can update the board a little bit on the question we had last time with regards to the open space designation of the property next to it. So the Aspen property, the adjoining property to it, has a deed restriction, but the deed restriction specifically states, and this is in 1987. And the deed restriction states, the premises conveyed hereby shall remain as open space as that term is currently defined by the zoning and subdivision ordinances of the Township of Newtown, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, and such restrictions shall ensure the benefit of all the Township of Newtown and all the owners of lots number, blah, 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 blah. So Steve and the Township Solicitor have been reviewing what exactly the zoning ordinance identified as open space at the time. And when this restriction was put on it, it was a much broader vision of what open space meant. It wasn't as we would think of it today, and this is usually applied today, that it can't be touched. It really is more, Steve described it, and understand, I'm going to give a proper definition. He just shared this with me this afternoon. I'm going to get a proper definition of it, but he described it as it's not supposed to impede on the neighbors. That's essentially the concept. So you couldn't be doing something that would go onto the neighbor's property or bother them tremendously, but you could still consider something to take place on that piece of property as well, even though it's all forested right now. And I'm not recommending that you would want to do that, but you can be open to looking at wider uses for the whole property between Aspen and Sawmill.
That would give us more space on 252 to buffer noise as well. So when I drove down Sawmill, you can't park on Sawmill.
No, it's too
And
narrow.
it's really, but if you drive over to Aspen, which you can, it's really wide. It's an old street. It's very wide. I just parked there and walked in through the Aspen property. But Bill, I think Bill had mentioned, perhaps parking in that spot would be better. And, I don't know that access coming off the Sawmill into the park is a good idea because there's not a whole lot of room there. But has anyone else come up with any ideas of what we could utilize it for? Fairly large.
Kind of like that pickleball spot. Because there are, I mean, it's a very accessible location. And we don't really have another place to put that. That would, and it's something that's in demand. So that
Right.
might, I'm just thinking that might be something good. Maybe some kind of sound buffer with the neighbor, hour restriction, people not there at 6 a.m. playing pickleball, but
Right.
I think that's a great idea. A few years ago, when they were asking for community, there was a community survey about, what to put in at Greer. Pickleball came up a few times. And we kind of kicked it around, but I think that would be a nice space
Yeah, you could probably put a couple of courts there.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, if you made it dedicated to pickleball, it certainly, yeah, I think you'd want to have a few courts in there. I don't know what the demand is. I think they have them in Havertown. I don't know if Marple has any yet or not.
Solicitor has them.
Oh, there you go.
What's the size of the property?
I believe it is just over 3 acres.
Oh, that's big.
Now, that is a combined acreage. That's not just one property. I'm not sure. The sawmill side of the property is a little bit smaller than the Aspen side of the property.
Kind of dog legs.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
that Aspen.
I'm gonna ride over there. I'm gonna see it.
It's a pretty cool property, and there, it's, I assume there's something historical there. There's a post, it must have been some kind of gated property that was there at some time.
Yeah, on the Aspen side, it was actually almost built as the sawmill development, as the entrance to the sawmill development. So that's kind of what that monument is there. It was almost intended, like when you went into where Sugar Maple and Roberts and all those houses back there, it was kind of the grand entrance to it.
Well, I thought, it is a little majestic.
So I would offer if any of the members of the board want to go out and take a look at it individually, if you want to, have me join you, I'd be happy to run over with you if that would be more comfortable.
And I could join anybody either. You can't have 3, but I could join one person. Oh,
Yeah, I would be interested in that.
Great. Yeah, so again, you could stop out at any time you want yourself to take a look at both properties, but if you'd like me to stop out as well, just let me know and I'll make that happen.
One of the other things is, a natural, inclusive kind of playground that's, it's pretty popular today is another possible consideration. And I think we're just going at the 1,000-foot level here with our recommendations. What could possibly be.
Yeah, I definitely think you need some kind of a protected crosswalk there. We do anything with it at all.
So one of the
There is a
challenges.
light there, but it's not.
Yes, so one of the challenges up to this point in putting a crosswalk in, because we've been desirous of putting a crosswalk across 252, connecting it to the trail over there. One of the challenges is that up until today, there's no pedestrian facilities on that Sawmill Road side of where a crosswalk would be. So PennDOT wouldn't allow you to put a crosswalk in if it doesn't go anywhere. So if it doesn't land on a sidewalk or land on a trail or something like that, they don't want to give people the impression that there's a safe place to walk and then all of a sudden you're in the street or you're just on the grass or something like that. So part of, I think what would be looked at for this property would be if there's a landing spot for somebody to walk across and some parking, then you've got a reason to be able to put that crosswalk in. But I do think the township has been very interested in there being a crosswalk. The fact is people do walk across it already now. The challenge has just been you can't put a crosswalk in without official pedestrian facilities to land on.
But that is something that should be considered in the.
Yeah, and I will write that down as one of the things that was talked about here, the crosswalk and the pedestrian facilities.
So yeah, I don't know whether, we consider a natural playground, and this is just something to throw on the list. I don't, and, totally, how about something totally inclusive? I don't know if we want to go there, that's sound and sight related. There is no other place. I think that, Greer is going to solve that need. So we might want to put it down and just put the caveat that, understanding Greer might satisfy this requirement.
Sounds good.
Does anyone else thought of anything? Basketball, I think Bill had mentioned maybe that probably too noisy right there.
I looked, there's pickleball courts in Havertown at Haddock Park, so that's.
Oh, yeah.
And then in Marple, they put in a couple at Marple Little League. South Marple Little League.
Oh, yeah,
fields.
yeah.
So, but there's not really any others in the area. so.
But we could do it, we could do a disc golf course. Thinking of it. 'Cause it's not very noisy.
One or two holes, but I don't know how much space there is.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think there's an expense involved with it.
yeah, putting baskets up.
And yeah, there'd be some maintenance involved, I assume. But yeah, maybe a little putting green would not be a
Yeah,
bad
that-
thing,
that-
right?
yeah.
There isn't anyone around that's open to the public that I know of.
It might be something that could be made attractive for kids and adults. Sort of combination, have a miniature golf kind of thing. Also has for adults who want, a place where you can take a kid with
Oh,
and have them putt around too, but not necessarily with clowns and windmills and stuff like that, but something that could appeal to kids and adults. Where an adult could take a child or take it, putt around.
keep the kids occupied while you do something, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that when I sent ideas to you was a graduated exercise sort of facility where stop at each station.
Oh, right.
and Do chin-ups or push-ups or whatever. I've seen a number of those sorts of things. Walk along a trail and stop at each station and do an exercise.
Or
And
a
there's
stretch
usually
or
a-
something.
Yeah, there's usually a picture of what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Kind of
They have that at Ridley Park.
Yeah, Ridley Creek
Pretty
State
cool,
Park.
yeah.
There's a couple of
Oh, that's right, I've read about that, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Is this area big enough to have like on the outskirts, like put a trail in for bike riding around?
It's probably not large enough for it, and I guess the one challenge we would have is that it is right next to 252.
Right.
So vehicular
Getting
drivers
there.
aren't as,
Yeah, getting there and not getting killed getting there.
yeah.
Right.
And once you're there, I mean, it looks big on a map. It's not a huge parcel. I mean, in the one spot, I think it's just about 220 feet and on the one side,
Right, right,
which is, respectable,
right,
but it's not, you're not going to play baseball there or something.
right, right, right.
Yeah, you need room for parking as well, so that's going to
Right.
take up some of that acreage.
Yeah. But I think there's been some great discussions here. I'm gonna make sure these are all down and reported back. Again, I think you expressed an interest in talking about it again at the next meeting. And if, I'll just renew the offer. If anybody wants me to meet them out there at some point, I'd be happy to. Otherwise, you could go look yourselves.
Thanks.
So we'll keep this on the agenda for next month and then make a final recommendation. Item 8.2, discussion and possible action regarding October 1st Family Fun Day. So I met with the Train Museum Administration last night, I think it was. And everything's a go. We're pretty much on board with, they're bringing in the ride on train. We're bringing in the petting zoo and the township's going to bring in the face painting, and we're doing the band as well. So that comes to about 2,000 that we need. I think so far we've gotten about 500, but there's still a lot of people, I believe, going to contribute. So anything that we would get over and above will just go directly to the Train Museum, help them pay for food. And if there's anything left over, pay for some other stuff. I think we're going to need people to help. Train Museum, they're going to do something, have some kind of merchandise, so we might need to help them with that. And just parking and the regular stuff. think most of the activity will occur between 10 and 12, with the 10 and 12:15, maybe the band will go on. Leonard Altieri's agreed to speak before the band comes on.
Are they doing 2 sets or?
They're going to do 2 sets, yes.
Is the band, what time is the band?
I believe they're going to be on at 12:15.
Okay.
Then they would end at 2. With a, 20-minute break in between. I'm not sure how long it is. Again, we have a craft table. The character, yes. And I think the Railroad Museum, I think, John Long dresses as a conductor as well.
Pretzels and snow cones
They're going to have something there,
through the train.
yes, that we won't. Not us. Publicity. So the posters should be done. I'm just waiting for everything to come in, and then I'm gonna create the posters. I'll do 11 by 17s on all the normal door fronts and anywhere else out in the neighborhood that we can. And then all the social media places. I've actually signed up for some Facebook train websites that I could put stuff on there as well. The next door neighbor, the patch. all
About
those.
like signs on the Drexel Lodge perimeter of Westchester Pike, is that you're gonna? We'll have something like that.
The day of.
I mean,
Maybe
leading up
leading
to
up
it.
to it.
So I think we could ask the police if they could have one of the electronic signs there. I don't know if that's possible. It is a major event.
Yeah, I'll ask the police if they can spare one of the signs for that.
That'd be great.
Usually I think they, they'll do it the day before, or hopefully the Friday. If they can. I think he uses it a lot, so. Top of the priority, because it's traffic related,
Officer Kind is going to have.
So I have not heard back from the police department or the fire department said they would look into it. I've not heard back from the police department yet. I was going to send them another email to remind them. I assume that they'll do, we would need them there between 10 and 12:15, so.
Yeah, the dog barked at me the other day. I didn't even think to stop and ask if he knew if he was going to be bringing her or not.
Right, so I'll send them an email and I'll send Chief Everloff another email as well. Hopefully they can, and then that way we can put that on the poster and, to answer some. One of the things is gift bags. I'm just going to go on Amazon, identify stuff, and then send it to the train museum. The train museum will pay for it and have it available. If you guys think of anything that could be in the grab bags, it's cheap and easy to get. I went to Nikolai Train to see if they might want to be involved, with the grab bags or anything else. They haven't responded yet.
Tell me more about the grab bags.
So it's just going to be, some novelty items, train-related novelty items, just to give them a bag that we could put business cards in, and some other literature, EAC or anyone else, a township.
So is it for kids or families or?
For
who's-
kids, I think,
Okay, for
yeah.
kids, okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is that they're available for the kids, and I'm thinking that we do 120 of them. I don't know what the total number of kids is going to be, but I expect a big turnout because the advertising we're doing is the daycares, the schools, the library, all the Facebook. Right, and the craft table, woman, Charming Play Center, she's involved and she has a massive mailing for folks, and she's doing this for free. Have a craft table on a character. So,
People who come by the testing site from all over the place, I just say, hey, come on back on October 1st. I'm going to do that, tell my township.
good.
Yep.
Good, we need sick kids there.
No, they'll be well done.
Only if you test negative.
So I think that was it. It should be, I expect a major turnout. And so if anyone knows any businesses, please send it on to them. I haven't contacted Boron yet. They're usually a big sponsor for us. So the guy who does that actually lives on my street. Not next door.
Is it, I've seen for, not for Newtown Township, but for other like Marple Township, they've put like Facebook posts up that say if you'd like to donate. So not just to advertise about the event itself, but asking specifically for local businesses if they want to donate. So I don't know if that's something that we're doing too, or if there's
I'm
not
not
a need for
sure.
this, or,
I'm not sure where the township is with soliciting,
okay,
because it's kind of a gray area for them. I put it on Facebook because it's benefiting the Railroad Museum. So I don't know if there's a line between the Railroad Museum and the township. For me, I'm a resident. I put it on there for the Railroad Museum. So all the money's going to them. So I don't feel I'm doing anything, not violating it. Township is another.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, Park and Rec is supporting this. This is an event that's taking place in lieu of what would be the fall concert. And it is a fall concert. It's a children's concert this year. You're dovetailing it with an event that the nonprofit 501c3 Railroad Museum would normally be running. So I think it's great. We'll get people that would go to one or go to the other, go to both of them now. Because the concert portion is for sure a township event, I think we can talk about it. And the township supports Newtown Square Historic Day. They don't get directly involved with it. That's the Historic Society, but they certainly, help promote it. So yeah, I would see the township would probably put out something on it, and I would anticipate lend their support to it. I just have to watch because I volunteer at the Railroad Museum as well as. It's
couple
great.
things going on, yeah. Gotta keep everything straight.
But it all is recreation. It all benefits our community and the region. I mean, it's so.
And the park.
Right.
It's for the park there. And it's very kind of you to be making the Railroad Museum the beneficiary. The better the Railroad Museum's able to do, again, they're nonprofit, the better they're able to do, the better Drexel Lodge is. If they have that much better of a thing for people to come and see, that's good for the park.
So I guess I'll send it to Steve Bradley and ask him to help us promote it then.
Yeah.
All right.
And I will let him know.
All right. Thanks for asking, Caitlin. Good idea.
Yeah, just if
I
there, maybe there's some smaller businesses out there that we didn't think to ask, but they might like to contribute or.
Right. Right to the, right. The flyer explains that. So if they're reading the flyer, it should get through to them. Anything else on the October 1st? Item 8.3, discussion and possible action regarding the tree planting project at Brookside Park. So I met with George today and went over a plan with the township contractor who is going to head it up. You want to discuss it, George?
Sure. So the tree planting project kind of took on a life of its own for a while. And it was something that a lot of people wanted to do, a big tree planting project, but it was sort of, who was running it, who was in charge of it, where was it going to be? And it kind of built up. So at this point, one of the public works summer help staff who used to be employed with Chester Ridley Crum Watershed Association. The same person that oversaw the tree planting across the street at Gable Park across Ellis Avenue. We've asked them as our temporary employee, would they be willing to quarterback this project? And he agreed to do that, and he's got expertise in it. So what we talked about was, because of the deadline, that they had hoped to do this project September 16th and September 17th. That's a Friday and a Saturday. Because of the deadline of it and the fact that it really has not gone through the different township groups and committees and volunteers that it would need to, the Shade Tree Commission, officially the Environmental Advisory Council, Parks and Recreation. The Board of Supervisors hasn't even fully seen it yet. So the goal became, one, focus on Brookside Park as opposed to some of the other locations they were looking at, Newbie, et cetera. They could be talked about later. But make sure that it would be a tree planting effort that this board would be completely comfortable with, and that it would not in any way, shape, or form interfere with any active recreation or be questionable as to, okay, is it causing a site blockage, or is it taking space that could eventually be used for another playground set or a trail or something like that? Make sure that the planning does not take place in anywhere that would be problematic with that. Make sure it's something that the tree commission would easily be able to get behind. Again, kind of no brainer. So we are getting a map. Unfortunately, I don't have the map because he just started working on it today. But the idea is to plant trees further along the street, where, if you remember a few years ago, there was, and I know some of you were present for it, there was a tree planting that took place along Brookside Avenue, and we started planting some red maples along there. The year before that, we planted some on the other side. So to continue that tree-lined street concept along Brookside, as well as to take some of the areas, one, the parking area over by the playground set, as well as the parking area that's on the other side. There's wooden bollards with chains that kind of prevent cars from going too far. One of the concepts was to plant trees behind them so that when those bollards eventually need to be removed because they're gradually deteriorating, you have trees that are going to be performing the same function. So you get a double benefit. It's something that's already there. It's a blockage that's already there, but you're replacing that blockage with trees that would, again, perform the same function, but the trees there. There were a few other locations that, again, they would, the trees, there's an area where a number of ash trees along the hill had come down or have been coming down. Public Works had cleared the stumps and made the area ready for an eventual planting. So that's an area that would be somewhat reforested without the total blockage of everything. But again, it's an area that there were trees and we'd be replacing trees. So those are the kind of ideas at Brookside Park that we're looking at. Again, never interfering with active recreation, never interfering with something that you could possibly say, yeah, a play set would go here or a trail would come through here. Those areas would be left alone. With that, I have not seen the final count, but he easily thought that 50 trees was very realistic. And that's not trees right on top of each other. That's trees with good breathing space. So as a concept, that's what we bring to you. I realize it's a hard turnaround. I realize it's unfortunate that I don't have a map to be able to put up at this point, but it's something that I would assure you, we certainly wouldn't support it if we thought that it would have a negative impact on recreation.
I did send something out to the committee, just a generalization of where that would be on the trees. You know, I'm in favor of it. I'm not opposed to any part of it. I don't know. The same place you and Jonathan, I think, were there one day.
Yeah.
Give a tree.
I'm in favor.
We have Bill's names on one of the trees there.
Well, it's ours.
An official vote, George?
So I would like, I would like to know that Park and Recreation is comfortable with this project proceeding. What I would say is if you were not comfortable with the project, it would stop. Because the Board of Supervisors is going to give it the final blessing, but they would not want to do that if Park and Recreation was against it.
I'm for it.
Yeah.
I'm for it.
I'm for it.
So I'll make a motion to accept the plan as proposed to replant Brookside Park on September 16th and 17th.
Second
Sure.
motion.
Approved. Item 8.4.
If I may, just real quick. So Wade made the motion. Bill, did you second it?
Yep.
Okay, and then it was vote 5-0.
5-0. yeah.
Great, thank you. And just so you know, that this is it's gonna go to the Board of Supervisors, it's gonna go to the Shade Tree Commission, I think it's gonna go to the EAC as well. And everybody, as long as they're comfortable with it. I'm hoping by next week, I'll have a map to be able to show to the other committees. I will forward a map to you so that you can see it, but it's as described.
George, who's gonna actually put them in the ground?
Good question. So there are volunteer, first of all, Cindy Mahalo, the vice chair of the EAC, is spearheading the volunteer aspect of it. One of the main groups is going to be Chester Ridley Crum, is going to be providing volunteers. These are not the large trees like we get from Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. I think you've almost all participated in tree plantings in the past where I'll bring in a tree that's 10 feet tall already and we're digging a huge hole. These are much smaller trees, larger than what got planted across the street, but still that's that concept. So Public Works is going to pre-dig the holes with an auger, and then the day of, it'll be much easier for people with shovels because the ground will be loose to just open the hole a little more, plop it in, do what it needs to do. It's a lot less work than the big trees that we usually do.
Is there
Good.
like deer protection or anything like that, or?
There is, so a part of what we get with these trees is deer protection and stakes and those kind of things that go with them.
We know the time of the Friday and Saturday plantings.
I do not, what I would say is when that is finalized, we'll put it on the website and ask for volunteers, and I will make sure that I send that notice to the 5 of you.
Thank you.
I assume that I'll be there. I'm not sure.
I'll be there
It's in
Saturday.
Fridays, the 16th is Friday, so.
Be there Saturday.
One other thing I'll mention, this is certainly not the last time there could be opportunities to plant trees at Brookside Park. Some of the areas that may have previously been proposed, we did not want to do this time because it was too rushed. Such as, for example, it would be great to consider some additional trees inside the playground area itself, but not today, because we don't have time to go and really evaluate it, the right tree in the right place. This is the idea of keeping it as a, street tree and or parking lot tree and those kind of things. But there will be opportunities in the future for more carefully thought out plantings that would come along.
Discussion 8.4, discussion and possible action regarding a fall park cleanup event at Newton Park. So the tree planting is off. We're not going to do that. And then Cindy had identified some invasive species that perhaps we could pull out and then replant. But it's a pretty massive undertaking. I don't know that we could get the volunteers we need to do that ourselves, or that we even want to do it, because I'm not sure the invasives are that spreadable. I don't know myself, but no one's been able to respond to my question. Are these invasives spreading, by birds or Do they creep underground? Because they're contained. If they're creeping underground, it's all contained where they're at right now. They're serving the purpose of sopping up the water that's running down the hill. So I don't see any purpose of putting all that energy into doing that. If they're nasty invasive things, we should get rid of them because it's a benefit for community, then, somebody should put that forward. But right now, as I understand it, it's not that bad of a thing, so.
They've been clipped back, right?
I think that they're a deciduous shrub kind of
Okay.
thing, and they die and come back.
These are the
every
ones
year.
that were by the fence and somebody said they couldn't see down in the park.
Yes, yes, exactly, yeah. But again, they're serving a purpose, and to get rid of them is.
Right, the rip them out, you may cause an erosion problem.
Yes. So, unless and there's an erosion problem in that park anyway, so unless we come up with a comprehensive plan to take care of everything, there's invasives all over, there's vines in the trees, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to that park. I don't know that energy in that little spot, in that park, prudent idea, I don't know. But we can have a cleanup. So the cleanup would just be having some families come out with some plastic bags, and I'm going to reach out to Darby Creek Association, see if they would at least recognize us for that. And they might ask us to hold off until spring when we do the Brookside and Greer Park one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, maybe they could be added to the list in April when they do all the other sites.
Right. So that would probably be an October event. I guess we'll do a little more research, and then we'll put it back on the agenda for October and discuss it further at that point.
Sounds good.
Item 9.1, update on Drexel Lodge Park mural. So teachers are going to be there one more time. I'm not sure if all 4 of them are coming, but the majority of the teachers will be there one more day. We're going to finish the portraits as they are. One of the things that came up was that we don't think we're going to be able to do the mural in Cable Park just because of timing, and we discussed that last month. So I reached out to them to see if they would be interested in finishing the mural at Drexel Lodge, because the top of it is not really done. We originally wanted words on there. We're just not going to have time to put those words on, and some other little features. So I wanted to paint the eaves. George, you want to kill me? The eaves of the building, so that when you're down at the gazebo and you look up, that whole building is booming. And when you're on Route 3 looking over, it shows, and they could put the word love, or, floating hearts, or I told her, you're going to have to figure out what to do, but we want something that attracts people's eye from Route 3 when they're driving by, and we could put perhaps a solar light shining up at night there that's inexpensive. And then the other thing was the sidewalk in front of the bathroom doors that goes out to the street. I don't know if you've noticed it. It goes right to the bathroom doors, and it goes to the street itself. It's just a pretty cool piece. If you look at it, I thought we could put a rainbow pattern on it with 2 hearts on the end facing in. Teachers, the high school students would be interested in that as well. That's going to add cost to the project, because that's another kind of paint. The other ones, I think we could squeeze out. We have white paint. I could probably mix the colors to get enough. So we would add cost if we did the macadam sidewalk out front.
Right, and I would say adding more onto the building itself probably is okay from the approvals we got to do the project to begin with. If we were going to do a sidewalk project, we'd probably want to go back to the board and make sure they were okay with that too.
Okay. All right.
And you gotta be careful what kind of paint too. Could be, when it gets wet, it could be slippery, or
You need non-skid, yeah.
Sand paint or something.
Right.
Well, and I'm also thinking, I mean, that sidewalk is fine, but if we were going to put art on the sidewalk, we might want to consider do I want to replace it? Do I want to do any maintenance work to it before we would, do anything like that? But again, I would also just want to make sure the board was okay, knowing that we're expanding.
So we might want to do that next year.
It would probably be a good next year project.
Okay.
I'd hate to rush it.
But we can do the eaves.
I
this
don't
year
see
if
a
we can
problem
get
with
it
the eaves. I
finished.
think that fits within the permissions we already had.
All right. So we hope to be finished September, October, eaves, everything done. We'll hand it off to George to clear coat, I guess. But the teachers want to do some kind of dedication service in November. Keep it on the agenda and then hopefully have some kind of dedication in November.
Now, what was the date that the teachers were going to do?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'll just send out a message. If anybody can stop over, they can. We're almost finished, so it's going to be a problem finishing that part of it. And the high school students seem to be pretty psyched about getting it. We don't need to take action there. Discussion and possible action regarding the basketball court painting at Gable Park, item 9.2. So we've, discussed it. It's just the window is kind of closed on us where there's some damage to the court already. There might be further damage. Water gets in there and freezes if we wait any longer. Damage there.
Yeah, and I'm going to find out if I just do the painting like we were originally planning, just to, restoring it the way that it was. If there is any way I can do an interim step painting for the winter that would do the maintenance work I need to do and put maybe the base coats down to possibly keep the option open to do a mural concept at a later point. I don't know. At a certain point, it might not be financially feasible because I might spend so much money just taking it this far that, it may not be worth it, but I'll investigate that. And if it's something that we could get it maintained and know that it's not going to deteriorate any further but put in a little bit of a holding pattern with lines on it so they can play on it and maybe revisit it in the spring, I'm going to investigate that.
I'll let the art teacher know that. So, one of the things Bill wanted to do is put the township logo on. So, if it's going to be bare, we might want to put that in the center court or something. So, I don't know how cheap it is to get a logo decal.
Could find out.
Possibility. Oh, yeah, they're talking about. That's going to be a. Item, I guess we'll just remove that from the agenda. We don't need to take any action. Item 10 is public comment. Any public comment? Sure.
There's a large part of the attention. Arbor Day don't have gator bags. They're in desperate need for water. I didn't know. Previously, I'd seen gator bags. They are.
So there are, for the sake of the recording, Sheila was asking about the 3 trees planted on Arbor Day at Drexel Lodge Park. So they do have gator bags on them, and we water those usually once a week or once every couple of weeks. They get watered when they finish up the flower watering.
Apparently this week, somebody said they were there and they weren't. There was no water in it, but they were kind of a desperate shape. So just if somebody can give it a little TLC.
Sure. So and all of the trees that have been planted recently within the past year, actually the last 2 years, because Public Works does still regularly water the trees along 252 that were planted, the trees along the Goshen Trail that were planted, and then the ones up at Drexel Lodge that were planted for Arbor Day. This has been a very difficult season on trees, though, and grass and anything outside. It's been rough. I mean, we had well-established trees that have been declining or we may lose. So I am not surprised that the ones up at Drexel Lodge would be looking rough. We're going to keep watering them. We're going to keep on top of them, but I'm not surprised because it's across the board.
Item 11, items for the next agenda. Anyone have anything they want to add?
Yeah, I just made a list of, so we're going to talk about the property on 252.
Right.
And then we're going to review, let's see, Newbie Park, I guess,
Yes,
and then the Borough dedication.
yes. So, because of the significant amount of money that the township is going to be spending on Greer Park and, everything else that they've recently spent money on, I didn't think it was right for us to ask for any more money for next year, other than what we would need for our general.
And the other thing, we were honoring the request to start looking at putting funds aside for the eventual replacement of playground equipment. And
Right.
although that's something that it's not like in the 2023 budget, there would be enough money to replace a whole playground set or anything. The idea is to start putting money aside dedicated every year so that when you're recommending that a playground set gets replaced, we'll have money built up to be able to do something like that. So that's in there, as well as all the regular park expense money that's usually in there. If anything that's a capital item that is being worked on this year rolls into next year, that money will be rolled into the 2023 budget. And again, we're hoping that the Greer Park project is going to be rolling to some extent by next year.
Item 12, I guess we're adjourned.